The Marty and Laura Show is brought to you by Veterinary Village. With locations throughout Wisconsin, Veterinary Village is dedicated to enhancing the quality of animal and human lives, today and into the future. Welcome to the Marty and Laura Show. I am Laura.
And I'm Marty. That's my line. I'm Marty.
Marty forgot her line already. We're only on episode 4, y'all.
Seems easy.
It seems like it. So I told you last week we were going to have some hot topics. So here's our hot topics. Hot take number 1, crate training is a good thing.
It's an amazing thing. It's a great tool.
And hot take number 2, housebreaking is really simple when you crate train your pet.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's simple. And it's absolutely essential because that's the number 2 reason people don't keep their dogs is housebreaking issues. Number 1 is biting. Number 2 is housebreaking. In the cat world, it's the other way around. Cats that don't use a litter box, that's the number 1 issue. So,
Interesting.
potty train.
Potty training is a thing for all of us. I mean, let's just be real.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, we're going to start with dogs and then we're going to segue into cats. But we've got this new pet. We're going to say it's a puppy. We've, done some things to get it ready, introduced it to the family. And now we've got this thing. We've got to get it house trained. And how are we going to do it is a big part of the question. So what are your thoughts, Marty?
My thoughts are a lot of people have unrealistic expectations for how quickly a puppy house breaks.
Mm.
In my world, it takes many puppies till they're 4 months old, between 4 and 4.5 months old, to understand the concept and to have the physical ability to control it and get to the door and communicate that and get outside in time. So that I have a few people that come in and say, I've had this puppy since she was 7 weeks old and she never had a single accident in the house. I'm like, wow, you are a way better dog trainer than I am, because I
You're
have
just
puppies
really
that
lucky.
don't get it. Yeah. Either that and some of them even sleep with them. I'm like, you put this dog in your bed? Like, really? Because I don't like doing sheets in the middle of the night, but okay. So yes, some puppies simply don't have the physical capacity and the communication skills that it takes. And there's some tools we can help with crates, with bells. There's a few tools that we can do to make it better. But if you expect every dog is going to housebreak by 7 weeks of age, you are setting yourself up for disappointment and failure.
Absolutely. And so, coming from my perspective, like as a breeder, before I send my puppies to their homes, I have introduced them to a dog crate. They're accustomed to being put in a dog crate to eat, put in a dog crate to have a nap, so that I know that they are going to stay clean, because in their dog crate, they don't want to make a mess. This is their, like a cave, right? So like their space, they
Right.
don't want to mess in it. And so that's why crate training works in the housebreaking process.
Right.
Obviously, you leave your puppy in a crate for 8 hours, it can't hold it that long and it will make a mess.
Mhm.
So we're going to go through some of these processes, but the number one thing I hear from people is how grateful they are that they didn't have to hear the puppy cry in the crate, because they were already accustomed to it. And I can raise my hand and say, yes, I have listened to 12 wire hair pointer puppies screaming at the top of their lungs simultaneously as they discussed their displeasure with confinement. So
Right.
I took that off your plate, man. Took that up, but not everybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that face, that's the face. You just walk out. You just go to the next house. You go next door. You go to the store. You just walk away.
Turn up the radio, turn up the
Up the radio,
TV.
all the things.
Yep.
But not everybody's going to do that. Like
No.
I am a glutton for punishment. I don't have a martyr complex, but
Nope.
I do feel really strongly about this. And this isn't something that everybody's going to have with their puppy. So talk from your perspective in terms of, these baby puppies yelling and crying and screaming feels really hard to people.
Right. Well, I raise mine, they start off in an X pen as a group, and then when they are old enough, then I start putting them into crates. And frequently, if they've been used to the confinement of an X pen, and then you put the crates next to each other so that they're very close to each other, they're just not physically in the same space, but they're very close. That makes that transition a lot easier. So they go from being in an X pen as a group to being next to each other in crates. And then when they leave your house, being in a crate is not so foreign because you've given them that in between step to make it easier.
We start
And
them
yes,
at a time and or three at a time and then one.
right. Right. Split them up. Yeah.
All the stuff.
So that they're not right. And three in a crate, two in a crate works really well because then they have a buddy and it's not quite so scary as the first night alone. Of course, if you have a puppy that was the singleton, then that makes a big difference. But it's just important that you're working with a breeder that's willing to do these things because it makes such a difference when you transition them to home. When I picked up my Commodore puppy, she screamed the whole drive home. She screamed for the first 3 days. I was pretty sure I wasn't going to be able to keep this dog because she just couldn't get her act together. And on the fourth day, she said, "Oh, well, screaming's not really getting me anywhere, so I'll quit." And she turned into an amazing dog, but sometimes you aren't that fortunate. So yeah, it's an important step in the whole maturity part of dogs. Dogs need to be about 7 weeks old before they start having that social interaction with people that can start to replace the social interactions that they have with their mom and their litter mates. So we have to know developmentally, kittens stop their social period, their critical social period ends at 3 weeks. Puppies start at 7 weeks. So they're, again, very different species, and we can't assume that one is the same as the other. And people do crate train their kittens or put them in,
Mm,
crates or pens or big cages or whatever. So you can do some of these same things with kittens that you do with puppies to accelerate the
mm,
chances that they're going to use their litter box or be housebroken or whatever your skill set that you're trying to develop would be.
right. So when we start puppies, I assume that you're basically the same as me. I started it in a crate and I just put its food bowl in the crate and it wants to go in the crate. The crate's a good thing, right? Because I have food in the crate and I work towards the goal of them never having to scream and holler and lose their mind. My
That's
happy
ideal.
right? My happy place is they go in, they eat their food, and I let them free to go outside and go potty, right? Like
Mhm.
when we start our individual crate time. Sometimes that doesn't work because,
Yeah.
whatever. One person took too long or one puppy took too long and the other one was done first and was mad.
Well, and there's differences in personalities. One litter is not the same as
It,
another. I mean, my farm dogs are different than my
within
corgis.
litter.
But yeah, and sometimes I'll have some litters that I can litter box train and they do a beautiful job of using a litter box. The next litter is just they're just pigs. So it's really interesting because there's a different culture in every group. They're not all the same folks.
Absolutely. So on point. So we start with that. Then they go, and sometimes they take a nap and they're in there for half an hour. And like kids being put down for a nap, sometimes they don't like to go down for a nap and they'll cry. And, there are different
Yeah.
parenting methods. I'm not going to compare kids and puppies, but there's a reality that sometimes a puppy doesn't want to do what is best for it and we have
Mhm.
to let it cry it out. Thoughts?
Yeah, and I think pretty much every puppy goes through the zoomies at about 8 o'clock at night. It's just like kids that get overtired.
Mhm.
They go racing through the house at 8 o'clock, and you're like, "What happened to that nice little puppy that was living with me? Where did you put it? Where did it go?" And so you'll see those kinds of things because puppies, like kids, get overtired. They don't always know what's good for them. They don't know that they're so hungry they need to eat. They don't know they're so tired they need to take a nap or go to bed for the night. So you do have to impose a certain amount of scheduling onto them. Number one, because you need your sanity, you need your sleep, you need to have those things. And number two, they need to learn some of those things. So you have to give them some boundaries, some guardrails, so that they know how to behave. And it can take some tough love. It can take shutting the bedroom door and letting the puppy cry it out, putting a towel over the crate, or putting something that makes some noise in the room with them, white noise or a TV or a whatever. Sometimes it takes a little tough love, but giving in to the puppy the first night and putting it in bed with you. I have yet to sleep with a puppy like it's sleeping with a windmill. It's like, it's in your hair, it's everywhere, it's all over the bed. I don't know how people do it, but there are some that are successful. I am not one of those people, and I've had a lot of puppies in my lifetime. A lot of puppies in my lifetime.
And for me, bed sleeping, now this is just me. I don't advocate for or against. This is just simply how I do it. Bed sleeping is an earned um,
Yes.
opportunity. It is not it is not a right, it is a privilege, if we're going
Hmm.
to think of it that way. And they have to earn that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they earn that privilege by appropriate doggy behavior. And I I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole of you know proper societal attachment to our pets and all those sorts of things. But what I'm trying to think about is that what Marty was talking about, the structures, the boundaries, all of those things, anarchy is not the way people like to live.
No.
With their pets, with their children, with their no,
Yeah.
and so structure and boundaries is what keeps us from living in an anarchy with our animals. And so that's why I find that keeping a puppy sleeping in its crate until it's a year old. When we get
Hmm.
a puppy goes in his dog crate, gets a little chew bone, and if it needs to get up in the middle of the night, I'm not worried it's going to have an accident. I can get up, I can carry it outside. Puppies learn best if they only ever have positive experiences. I don't want a puppy to have an accident and have to be corrected. I want them to never have an accident. And the way that happens is with crate training. It goes in its crate when it eats, when it naps, and as soon as it's up from its nap and it's done eating, it goes outside. If it never has an accident in the house, it never learns that it can.
Yes. Yeah, I was raising one of my service dog puppies, and I would have to dress like a fireman. As soon as he heard me roll over in the bed in the morning, he would stand up in his crate and he just couldn't wait one more second to urinate.
Mhm.
So I would wake up, I would open one eye and then the other eye, and I wouldn't move. And I would say, okay, let's see, where did I leave my pants and my shoes? Because it was winter. I couldn't just run out in my jammies. Where did I leave? Because I would literally like have my shoes and my pants, like I could jump into him in one move, jump into my coat and grab him and hold his little parts and run him outside, and I could make it. But if I as much as rolled over,
Mhm.
he would know I was awake, and it was
It was all over.
game on,
Mhm.
done. So there's some dogs that are very good, but really the more effective that you can be in consistently getting them out, they're going to have to go potty when they wake up. They're going to have to go potty after they get done eating. They know you have to take them out to go potty before you go to bed at night. There's certain things that you just have to structure so that there is a reasonable expectation that they can hold it and you can get them outside fast enough. And when there's 12 of them, that's a challenge. If
Yes.
there's one, you have a much more reasonable chance.
Talk to remind me there's a mathematical thing that says if they're 8 weeks old, their bladder is big enough to go for X number of hours. Do you remember what
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the formula, but yes, it's definitely age related. The bigger they are, the more mature they are, the longer they can hold it. And of course, you have to be somewhat reasonable about the schedule that you feed and water them on as well. You
yes.
don't need to put water in their crate all night overnight. I would take the water away usually by 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening so that they would have a chance to urinate before you went to bed, and then you wouldn't wake up to a wet, soggy crate in
Hmm.
the morning. And I love water bottles, the drinking bottles that they make for dogs that are Lixit. They're like the giant gerbil bottle with a little metal tip and the ball at the end. You can hang those on the crate, and then the puppy has access to a sip of water without having access to the entire bowl to either slurp down the whole amount or go swimming in it while you're sleeping, because you don't need to wake up to a wet, soggy puppy that took a dive into the water bowl because it looked like fun. Labradors, golden retrievers, that's recreational.
Benoni, yeah, all those.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
So the
okay.
drinking The drinking bottles are great. All you have to do is put peanut butter or chicken baby food or something on them, and puppies will learn to use them very quickly. And that way, if you feel guilty about not giving them access to water, you can give them a small amount that it takes them a while to drink
Mhm.
instead of just letting them go nuts.
Right.
Doggett simplifies the puppy buying journey by connecting families with the perfect breed and responsible, health verified breeders. They are the only breeder marketplace that verifies health clearances and responsible breeding practices. Through their personalized puppy matcher tool and matchmaker services, they educate and guide buyers every step of the way, ensuring a seamless process and a perfect match for their lifestyle. From initial breed consultation to introductions with top breeders, Doggett makes responsible puppy ownership easy and stress-free.
So I think that's really important. We talk about when we send our puppies home, we talk about feeding them 3 times a day for a certain amount of time. We talk about, containing them. We mentioned this earlier. X pens are a wonderful thing. And they can, have a snack or a drinking bottle or a small bucket of water, all those kind of things if you're at work. But I think that the idea of just remembering that they have teeny tiny little bladders and that we can only ask them to hold it for an hour or two, or if you're really lucky you can get 4 hours at night. uh,
Hmm.
and not being mad at the puppy for having basic bodily functions, I think is just such an important, just a little reminder.
Right. We all have our basic needs. So those bio breaks are essential, and you have to really think about how you're scheduling that puppy's intake and opportunities to urinate and defecate so that we are realistic about these guys. It's not fair to them to
Mm.
set them up for some kind of failure. So give them a chance. Um, and they like you said, they don't want to mess in their crate. They want to stay where it's clean and dry, but you have to be reasonable. And if you do have more than one puppy at a time, you have to figure out how you can get them out fast enough that, if
Right.
you're raising 2 puppies, which I don't generally recommend. I
Recommend.
do recommend 2 kittens at a time. I don't recommend 2 puppies at a time for people getting new puppies. So I really think 1 puppy at a time is the best way for most pet owners to have a dog, because they learn to interact with you instead of bonding to the other puppy. So really single puppy at a time is preferred by the behaviorists.
100%. And particularly not litter mates if you're going to have two.
Correct.
Litter mate syndrome is a thing. Two puppies,
Mhm.
really two litter mates, will bond to each other, and they will
Mhm.
bond as well to their people, and that
Mhm.
enormous number of various and sundry behavioral problems. And yes, I'm sure there's somebody out there that can tell me all kinds of great stories about how they did it and it was perfectly fine. But the facts remain that it is contraindicated for most folks in most situations.
Yeah, and most breeds. Yeah, it depends a little on the breed. But I've even raised 2 corgis that weren't litter mates, but they were very close in age, and they were it was lovely to see their close relationship, but it wasn't good for a healthy human interaction. So in general, yes, kittens and puppies are not the same. Kittens do great in pairs, puppies, no.
Okay, so we talked a lot about crate training and house training for a puppy. Now let's talk about it for a kitty. This is
Yeah, and kittens are kind of
all on you.
yeah, kittens are kind of interesting because they really have a very innate sense of wanting to use the litter box. So, as long as you make it accessible, in other words, if you have great big tall sides and a little tiny kitten, it
Mm.
can't get up and into the litter box. So, you want to make sure it's a box that's relatively shallow. You can use cardboard, you can cut a section out of a plastic box. And then there's so many different kinds of cat litter substrates on the market now. We used to just have clay, that
Right.
was it. But now we have corn cob and newspaper and soy and, all kinds of different substrates. So you want to make sure that you're finding a substrate that the kitten likes, will use, And then, like I said previously, you want one litter box per cat plus a spare. So if you have 8 cats, you need 9 boxes. If you have 3 cats, you need 2, or 3 cats, you need 4. So always have one spare in case there's one that's not clean, because cats are very particular. They want their litter box clean. Many times after you change the litter, there's a little parade. As soon as you change it, the cats are all waiting for a fresh litter. They're like, woohoo, let's go in the box. Everybody parades in, everybody parades out, and then you have to start all over and clean it up again. And people tend to put a lot of litter in their box so that they can just scoop it and not have to change it all the time. Cats don't like litter that's deeper than about 2 inches because they sink into it.
Mm.
They don't like that feeling. And then people will call and say, well, my cat missed the litter box. Trust me, cats don't miss. If you've ever watched a cat in their litter box, they get in there and they dig a little hole, and then they look around, and then they dig a little more, and then they look around and they dig a little more, and they position, and they are dead on. They aim exactly where they want to go. We were just in Africa. We watched 2 cheetahs on termite hills. That was their preferred place to urinate,
Oh
was
my.
on a termite hill. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because it's up high, I guess. I don't know. The other cats know that that's their territory. So the wind carries it better if it's on the termite hill instead of down on the dirt. So, cats
Wow.
are very specific. They don't miss. So if your cat's not using the box, either there's a problem with the litter box, it's dirty, it's smelly, it's gross, they don't like the litter, blah, 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 or they have some kind of physiologic problem that they associate pain in urination, pain in defecation with the box causing it, and they will not go into the box. So if you have litter box issues, you need to, number one, assess your care of the litter box, and number two, trot right into the veterinary clinic and get that cat checked out, because something is wrong. They're sending you smoke signals saying, I have a bladder infection. Actually, it's not an infection, a bladder inflammation. But cats don't usually get infections, but a lot of people think they do, because a lot of cats, 3% of all the cats we see in veterinary hospitals come in with urinary issues. It's a pretty high percentage. So if your cat is sending you smoke signals saying, I have something wrong, I'm not using the litter box, don't wait, especially if it's a male cat. They are giving you the opportunity to fix it before you can't fix it. So get in right away, go in, get it taken care of, because that cat is giving you a chance to fix their diet or whatever needs to be changed before they end up with a $4,000 urinary obstruction. So just be aware. Just be aware. So that's cats.
Okay.
Some people will use those big cat cages. They're like a crate, only they're tall, so the cats can climb up on different shelves and that kind of thing. That's a good way to train a kitten if they're not fast at learning to use the box. And I like litter training puppies too. I know you've talked about Brilliant Pad. I use litter boxes. I just ordered my Brilliant Pad the other day, and I haven't gotten it yet because now I have puppies for the first time. So mine's being shipped. But there's ways that you can litter box train puppies too, because at about 3 to 3.5 weeks of age, puppies want to keep their area clean. Right about the time that they start solid food and mom isn't cleaning them up anymore, they will tend to use a urinary and defecating area like kittens will. And if we take advantage of that as a breeder, and you can teach the puppy to do that, that's one more step that's toward housebreaking. So when the new people take their puppy, it's great. So if you've had a breeder, if you're getting a puppy from a breeder and they've litter box trained their puppy, this is reason for celebration and probably paying them a little extra, because they
That's
just
true.
sped up your housebreaking. You don't have to go buy a little green machine, because your puppy's going to have fewer accidents on the carpet.
Yeah. And I think, whether it's Brilliant Pad, which is a system that rolls up the messes for puppies, similar to the way some of the automatic litter boxes work for cats, right? Or you're just using a little piece of grass. I mean, there's a variety of ways that you can litter box train your puppies. And as you mentioned, when you've got litter box training and crate training all together, your puppy is rarely, if ever, going to have an accident if you're paying attention. The other one I wanted you to dwell on a little bit, because it's not a system I use, and it sounds like you do, hanging a bell for your dog.
Yeah, and there's bells, just regular bells that you can buy at the hardware store or the craft shop or whatever, that the puppy can go over, and you can teach it to either bump the bell with its nose or its paw, or there's now electronic bells that you can put at the door. The dog goes over, they push the button, a little treat pops out, and it's Bluetooth. So you can have the receiver in your pocket way across the house. The puppy goes to the door, punches the button, and it says, I need to go potty. And so you trot over to the door fast, let the puppy out, because you don't want to teach your puppy to bark at the door or scratch
Right.
at the door.
Right.
You want to teach it a technique that allows them to get your attention. But puppies that are really young, under 4 months of age, don't know how to come look at you. You might be cooking or working on the computer or helping the kids with their homework or whatever you're doing. And so you're not staring at the puppy, but the puppy's staring at you. And unless you realize there's two little brown eyes staring holes in you, you may not get the message that the puppy's saying, hello, I need to go. And they give you about 10 seconds of, I need to go before I go. So you need to be attentive. And that's why those bells, I mean, they sell them on Amazon. They're like $30. And it
Cool.
literally, the puppy just pushes the little button and the Bluetooth receiver. You can buy it with 2 receivers for $30. So you can have one, somebody else in the house can have one. Of course, setting a timer is always a great technique of, the kids are playing video games, so you set a timer for every 10 minutes. Puppies have like a 7 to 10 minute bladder when they're really young. So you set the timer for every 10 minutes because the kids get wrapped up in a video game, or you get wrapped up on your Zoom call or making dinner or whatever it happens to be. And you forget that it's now 20 or 30 minutes since you took the puppy out last. And then the other thing that people forget is that you need to give the puppy the treat for going potty in the yard while they're in the yard. So the minute they go from squatting to horizontal, they stop squatting to urinate or defecate, they go back to horizontal, that food treat needs to be in their mouth instantly, not when you get back in the house. And people are like, well, he should just know to ask to go outside. Like, do you go to work every day? Well, yeah. Do you get paid once a week? Uh-huh. So what if you didn't get paid on Friday? Would you go back to work on Monday? Well, no. Okay, well, your puppy's doing the same thing. If it's 10 degrees out and your puppy doesn't want to go out when it's 10 degrees or it's raining or it's snowing or it's windy or it's dark or it's whatever, the puppy's not going to go out. It's going to use the indoor bathroom. And statistically, the indoor bathroom in most people's homes are either the extra bedroom or under the dining room table, because those are the rooms you're not in when the puppy's staring with his little brown eyes saying, I have to go out. So we have to give the puppy a communication tool. So the bell, the electronic bell, the timer, all of those are techniques that help you facilitate getting the puppy out into the yard quickly enough. And then you put a word with it. You don't try and teach the puppy the word till it understands the behavior.
That's exactly, I was just going to wrap up with that. I teach all of mine, go pee. Go pee. And I mean, again, I have trained hundreds of thousands of dogs traveling all across the country, where I've got 10 dogs in a motorhome. We got to get to the dog show. We don't have time. Everybody has to go potty and we got to get back on the road. I promise you, you can teach a dog go pee.
Yes. Yeah. And you can use whatever word you want. I don't care if you use Swahili, but you have to be consistent that the people are all using the same word. And so if your spouse says go potty and you say pee, and the next, it's like, Canning Combatants for Independence used to use better go now, and now they say hurry because they want to keep it a really short word. I don't care what word you use, but everyone in the family needs to be consistent, because the puppy doesn't understand English well enough to know that there are 16 different words for what you intend for them to know. So if you can come up to me in Swahili and tell me something, and if it's Swahili, you can yell it at me and I'm not going to know what you're talking about. Louder doesn't make me understand it. And the same with a dog. We somehow think that if we say it louder to the dog, like sit, 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 go potty, go potty, go potty, but louder doesn't help.
No,
sorry folks,
it doesn't.
Breaking news. It's not going to work for you.
Breaking news, that is going to be next week's topic. We are going to talk about training and socialization and consistency and all of those things wrapped up in a big puzzle cube. So looking forward to it. Thanks, Marty.
It'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Marty and Laura Show. We're excited to bring you these unique, fun, fact-based conversations about pet health. We hope you'll join us on social. Stop by the website to sign up for an extra tip of the week for your pet. While you're at it, do us a favor, please, and leave a review wherever you find your podcasts. The Marty and Laura Show is produced by Pure Dog Talk, Inc., sound design and editing by Premium Audio Services.